So if you feel like your mental bandwidth is just completely maxed out all the time, you are definitely not alone.
Not at all. I mean, the numbers on this are just staggering.
Right. What is it? Something like an astounding 75% of all the data in the entire world?
Was created in just the last 5 years. It's
Mm.
insane. Our brains, frankly, they weren't built for this, and our memory retention is just plummeting.
And that intense modern pressure is the exact problem that one very specific startup decided to tackle head on.
hmm And they didn't just propose some new software. They went for a radical piece of hardware, claiming it was the next evolution of computing. They called it NeoSapien.
NeoSapien, an AI-powered pendant designed to be your literal second brain.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this setup because we are diving into a classic high-stakes tech collision here.
We really are.
On one side, you've got the founder's incredibly slick, aspirational pitch on a major business reality show, a pitch that actually worked. It got them a deal.
And then immediately after, on the other side, you get the digital court of public opinion.
The internet.
Specifically, a massive, highly technical Reddit thread that just instantaneously began ripping apart every single claim. The hardware, the privacy, the competition, everything.
So our mission for this deep dive is to basically guide you through that conflict. We're going to separate the pitch day hype from the actual complex hardware reality.
We need to figure out what they were actually selling, why the technical experts online immediately smelled issues, and what happened to the company after this very public scrutiny.
It's more than just a business story. It's a fascinating case study in how transparency, trust, and this painful adoption cycle for new AI tech all clash in real time.
It really is.
So let's start with that vision. Segment 1, the move from Homo sapien to NeoSapien.
The founders are cousins. You have Donjay Yadav, who's got the marketing and growth background from places like Razorpay and Zalando.
And then the tech brain.
Right. Aryan Yadav, he's an IIT Madras AI engineer, and his background is in really specialized stuff like brain tumor recognition architecture.
So they come to the stage with this perfect familiar narrative. They focus on that pain point we just talked about.
Exactly. The idea that, we remember things from 7 years ago, but we're forgetting conversations from 7 days ago because there's just too much coming in.
And their product, the Neo 1, was the proposed fix.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us more about the actual mechanics. What is this thing?
So Neo 1 is an AI pendant, a wearable. It's designed to capture audio from basically all your conversations.
All of them. Physical, digital calls, everything.
Everything. But the goal isn't just transcription. This is the key. It's to build an individual, constantly growing knowledge graph.
Okay, so for the listener, what does building a knowledge graph actually mean in, practical terms?
Think of it like a truly personalized map of your life, your contacts, your ideas, your connections. It's not just storing that you talked to John.
It's more than a transcript.
Way more.
Yeah.
It knows John is an expert in software architecture, that you mentioned needing funding on that call, and that John knows 3 people who could help. It connects those dots.
That sounds incredibly powerful. And the example they used in the pitch really brought that to life.
It was so compelling. Dhananjay described a user asking the device, who within my circle can help me build the hardware for this new product?
And the device, having tracked thousands of hours of your life, could just pull up the perfect, maybe even forgotten connection.
Exactly. Their specific example was that it would suggest their angel investor, Samir Mehta.
Right, because it knew he'd helped with component sourcing before. That's the promise. Seamless, immediate efficiency.
And they backed this big vision with a serious ask. They were seeking 80 lakh for 2.5% equity.
A pretty significant valuation from the get-go. And what about the price for the user?
The Neo 1 itself was priced at 14,999 rupees. That got you the hardware and 1 year of the subscription.
And after that?
It was an ongoing fee, 850 rupees a month for the unlimited transcription and that knowledge graph functionality.
And they were smart about who they targeted initially. They weren't going for, everyone.
No, not at all. A very tight focus. The first 1,000 leaders and professionals. People who, by definition, prioritize efficiency over maybe some of those abstract data sharing concerns.
They needed users willing to pay for that friction reduction.
Trading potential privacy risk for guaranteed productivity.
But that aspirational vision, well, it ran headlong into the digital court of public opinion the second the show aired.
And the technical scrutiny was immediate and pretty brutal, which takes us right into decoding the flaws.
The first, and maybe the most devastating critique, was all about privacy.
A huge contradiction. In the pitch, They claimed they were the solution for consumers who were, quote, questing big tech with our privacy.
So they're positioning themselves as the good guys, the ethical alternative.
It sounds great on stage, but the online community, they went straight to the documents. The FAQ claimed strong protections: end-to-end encryption, secure storage, third-party audits.
Oh, the right buzzwords.
But then you look at the actual legally binding privacy policy, and right away, there were conflicts. It said data would be retained as long as your account is active, which is standard. But here's the kicker. It also said data may be shared with trusted third-party service providers.
And that's where the trust gap just explodes.
Completely. Because when you're promising to record someone's entire life, that kind of vague blanket statement creates massive unease.
And critics were all over this. They basically said, look, I'd rather trust a trillion-dollar company like Apple or Google.
Right, who have so much more to lose if they mess up.
Exactly. They have established security, public liability, a huge incentive not to get it wrong. Compared to a brand new startup with this vague policy, the risk profile is totally different.
It really felt like a classic case of the marketing message just sprinting way ahead of the engineering and the legal review.
And the second major area of scrutiny was all about the hardware itself, connectivity and battery life.
Yeah, the founder's initial justification was sound, right? Recording meetings on your smartphone all day, it drains the battery, so a dedicated pendant seems to make sense.
But the company's own FAQ kind of undercut that argument.
It really did. It stated the device requires the user's phone to be connected to the internet to function.
So the immediate assumption online was, what? That you'd have to run your phone's hotspot constantly?
That was the logical conclusion. And if you're running a hotspot all day, you are draining your battery worse than almost anything else. It seemed like the entire hardware premise just fell apart.
And this was a critical technical question the Sharks just...
Yeah.
They didn't ask it. It left this huge cloud of confusion over the whole product.
And to add insult to injury, the V1 product quality itself was called into question.
From their own FAQ, right?
Yep. Admitting the pendant was not water resistant and had no dust protection. For a daily wearable at that price point, that's a huge durability red flag.
Then there's the competition. This is a glaring omission.
Huge. Neither the founders nor the investors even mentioned the recent, very public implosions in the AI wearable space.
We're talking about the Humane AI pin, the Rabbit R1.
And even existing software alternatives like the Friend app. The fact that this wasn't brought up shows a real blind spot.
Which leads to the fundamental question the critics kept asking.
Yeah.
Why build this dedicated, fragile, expensive piece of hardware at all?
If it needs the smartphone for the heavy lifting anyway, why isn't this just an app that Apple or Google could roll out tomorrow?
And let's not forget the analogy fail.
Oh, that was rough. The founder tried to compare the device's privacy friction to the initial backlash against the iPhone camera.
And that did not go over well.
Not at all. Critics pointed out a much better example was Japan's law that mandates a camera shutter sound, even on mute. That's technology adapting to privacy concerns, not just forcing its way through them.
It really showed a weak spot in their narrative. But this is where the story pivots, because the co-founder, Aryan Yadav, did something really smart.
He showed real maturity. He jumped directly into that critical Reddit thread to respond to everyone.
That transparency was crucial. His first big clarification was on connectivity, fixing that hotspot misconception.
Yes. He confirmed the Neo S1 uses Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE, to stream audio to the phone.
Which technically saves the entire hardware premise.
It does. BLE is designed for power efficiency, tiny bursts of data, just like your wireless earbuds. The phone then uses its own Wi-Fi or mobile data for processing. No hotspot, no massive battery drain.
He also directly addressed the privacy policy, a huge admission.
He really did. Aryan admitted the language had ambiguity and that the team was actively working to make it clearer, specifying what data is stored and how.
And he made a key technical guarantee to try and calm people down.
This was critical. He stated that no raw audio is ever stored on their servers.
Yeah.
Only the processed transcripts, the knowledge graph data, that kind of thing. That's an essential distinction.
And the core question remained, why hardware at all? Why not just an app?
And his justification came back to one thing: friction. For their target market of busy executives, pulling out a phone, unlocking it, opening an app, it's a barrier.
It breaks the flow of a meeting.
Exactly. A dedicated wearable removes that friction completely. It's just always on, always ready.
And he mentioned the locket form factor itself was an advantage.
Right. Proximity to the mouth gives you much cleaner audio and voice fingerprinting than, say, a smartwatch on your wrist. So the hardware was justified by frictionless access and audio quality.
Okay, now let's fast forward because we have a reality check from an early user review that came out about 8 months later.
And this is a really critical data point.
And it was brutal.
It was. The user said the launch product understands nothing, that it changes context randomly and makes up transcripts based on assumptions. They called it pretty bad at everything and a gimmick.
Ouch. That really confirms the fear that the vision, the big promise, had severely outpaced the actual V1 capability of the AI.
For sure. But despite all that, the public scrutiny, the technical questions, the harsh early reviews, let's look at the final business outcome.
Because it's pretty remarkable, several of the sharks did opt out, and their reasons are insightful.
Aman, for instance, said it was just too early. He wanted to wait and see which form factor rings, glasses, pendants was actually going to win the wearable war.
Piyush had a different concern. He felt there was no clear power use case, and he wasn't sure if it was a real business or just good tech looking for a market.
And Kunal worried about the market size, arguing that a personal assistant for elite executives is, in his words, small by design. The path to massive scale wasn't clear.
But they did get a deal. Namita Thapar, the healthcare expert, offered them the 80 lakh they asked for.
But for slightly more equity, 4%, and with a really powerful condition attached.
She said the company had to focus on mental health use cases within 1 year.
And the founders agreed instantly. They mentioned they were already looking at things like aiding the deaf community and exploring metrics like dementia scores.
And they even mentioned calculating potential serotonin and dopamine scores? Wait, really? That sounds like pure sci-fi.
It absolutely raised eyebrows. I mean, it highlights how founders often blend what's possible now with these huge aspirational R&D goals to get investors excited. But the deal gave them capital and a much-needed high-impact focus.
And the most remarkable part is the validation that came next.
Despite all the headwinds, NeoSapien recently, as of this month, December 2025, raised a significant seed round.
How much?
$2 million. That's about 18 crore rupees, led by Merrick Ventures.
Wow. And that includes some of the returning angel investors from the show.
It does. Anupam Mittal, Namita Thapar, Samir Mehta. It signals that investors are buying into the much larger vision.
Which is not just about this one pendant.
Exactly. Their bigger vision is to build the NeoCore SDK, to become the foundational operating system layer for all future AI assistants. Glasses, watches, rings, the core intelligence platform.
So we've taken this complete journey from let's be honest, a vague but ambitious pitch.
Straight into the community's rigorous technical cross-examination, and then watch the founders clarify their tech and ultimately secure millions in funding, despite a flawed V1 product.
The big learning here seems to be about the power of a vision versus the absolute necessity of technical clarity.
I think so. The core conflict was that trade-off. The founders were obsessed with frictionless efficiency for a small group of elite users,
while the public was focused on the absolute need for transparent privacy policies for everyone.
And they navigated that crisis, not by having a perfect product, but by admitting ambiguity and clarifying one critical technical point, the BLE versus hotspot issue. That pivot, plus that big platform vision, was enough.
And that leads us to the final provocative thought for you, the listener. We've seen these founders admit their legal policies were ambiguous and launch a product that early users called a gimmick.
And yet, they were rewarded with $2 million in funding.
So the question is this. In the high-stakes, fast-moving race for the next big AI hardware platform, does the promise of a seamless, frictionless future just inherently outweigh the immediate real-world concerns about data security and transparency?
Or does this funding simply validate that right now the market is prioritizing speed, scale, and a compelling story above all else? Think about which side of that scale you would land on when deciding to adopt a product that wants to capture every single moment of your life.